Start
Oh,
streaming.
I guess I have to be a
Check.
verified user in order to message them.
Check, check, check. 1, 2. Check audio. Audio looks good on OBS. Discord looks good. Video looks good. YouTube. Hopefully audio is good on YouTube. Check. 1, 2. All right. It is Friday, September 15th. This is a coding stream. For some reason, Excalidraw has axed their desktop application for some, I don't know what's going on, but we're going to use the web version today. Let's take a look at what we got in the overall market. Everything's bleeding down, but the ES is doing tight range, not even full range, and barely dropping below its pre-market lows. This does not match any of the things I'm seeing in tech. All the tech stocks bleeding off hard, but the ES is just sitting right here, like relatively strong, and that does not line up for me. I have 0 trades today. I was looking to get into something. This Tesla was one of the ones I was looking at early in the morning, trying to get into it multiple times, could not get a fill, and just now it's returning back up here. I'm not going to engage in it here. I I don't know if this is a trap being set that is going to be driven higher later in the session. I don't know, but I just did not see any real opportunity in the morning for me. We've got, so yeah, all these tech stocks sold off. Look at Tesla, look at AMD. And again, look at the ES not selling off. It's just sitting right here, just below, just a couple of clicks before pre-market lows. AMD just selling off. Amazon selling off. Apple selling off. Nvidia selling off. Google selling off and recovering now. Microsoft was another one selling off. So none of them are compromised on the daily, but I just didn't have any way into any of these. There was no pops, no pullbacks, nothing. I'm not going to be hitting the bids today here. So Meta also selling off, but again, the daily not screaming opportunity. ES very tight and just hugging these pre-market lows. That's not, I mean, maybe you guys have edge here. I do not. So I sat on my hands until something came, nothing came, 0 trades. AMD still making lows into the 102s. I mean, this is a pretty significant bleed off. She's down 3.5%. This is a pretty significant bleed off coming into the support here, but what's the trade? Like where am I getting pullbacks? Nowhere. You'd have to basically get in at lows and just hope it goes lower. And hope is a difficult strategy. So ARM, let's take a look at ARM. ARM yesterday, IPO, big monster move on the open, nice little pullback. We were watching it on a live stream yesterday. I did not record. Maybe I should start doing those for IPOs, recording the live streams. But in the late afternoon, the buyer who we saw on the tape battling it out with a seller here finally stepped in here late afternoon and did more buying here on the open. It's just been kind of a mixed bag. Haven't really been looking at it because it never really broke out of its pre-market range. It's been stuck in its pre-market range all morning long. So not much to do there from my end. But anyways, that is the deal with the equities here. Let's go ahead and do this. Um, We can do this as well, and then we can just maximize this. And then let me go get your question, Humble. Where was it? It's up here. Let me take a screenshot of this. Okay, and then come back here, and then let's post this right here. This will be our first question for the day here. Other than Ahmed's. Hey Ahmed, is there an edge in ARM? I don't see one, no. I don't see an edge in ARM right now. Okay, so coding question. So Humbly Trading is asking, how'd you go about creating a custom chart study which creates a new candle based on conditions defined by another chart subgraph or potentially alert. So let's draw this out just to visually. We'll call this chart 1. Let me switch to a handwritten font. And then let's call this chart 2. And then basically you're saying you want chart 2 to do something in here based off of a subgraph, some subgraph value that is happening over here on this chart. So it's referencing this value and then doing something here. So then we have an example here. For example, if on a lower time frame chart a condition occurred, such as coming into a value area high or low, would make the higher time frame chart start forming a new candle. So I was with you up until everything or I was with you on everything up until this piece here. Start forming a new candle. So the reason why is because if this is your higher time frame chart and this is your lower time frame chart,
Be the
and
other way.
or the other way, let's do it that way. So
Oh
this
no,
is,
no, I'm sorry. You're right. You had it
we'll
right.
put it back. We'll put it back. Here we go. It doesn't matter ultimately, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's just
And
pretend this is a higher time frame. Let's pretend this is a lower time frame, just for shits and giggles.
yeah.
What is the bar period on this higher time frame?
Let's say, well, that would be the idea is it wouldn't really have a true bar period anymore. The candles would be formed or not formed. They would just be a candle until the next condition occurs. So they'd just be going up, down, up, down, up, down inside the candle, which I would show in a numbers bar volume profile situation. And then when the next time the alert or condition of the subgraph in the feeding chart happened, boom, the next candle would start. And
So
presumably that could be as fast as a second or a microsecond, or in some cases it could take hours until that condition occurred again.
let's just do a simple example so that we can make sure that I'm understanding what you're presenting here. So this is a 1 second chart, let's just say for ease of um, example here. If this 1 second chart is referencing a higher time frame chart's subgraph values, so what you're running in,
Sorry, yeah, sorry. It would have been, I meant it the other way around. Yeah, now that I see the arrow, I got confused there. So the lower
we
time
took,
frame would be chart one, and
oh,
then the condition would occur on the so-called lower time frame. Let's say it was a tick chart or a 1 second chart. And then that condition occurs, and then it would feed that condition as a true value into the custom candle code on chart 2. And as soon as it saw that true value, boom, new candle forms. And then if it's not true, then then it's basically waiting. It's just kind of ticking away, making a candle until the next time that same condition alert occurs. And it
hmm
could be something like a delta divergence or reaching into a value area high or a combination of those things. Let's say there were 5 or 6 and conditions that had to be met in order to create the new candle.
hmm
The idea then is generically anything that you would like to create a condition candle for, as opposed to a typical candle that we're used to, which would just have a consistent amount of ticks, volume, or time.
Yeah, okay. So this is an interesting and slightly more rare request than we typically get. So let's break down what the different components are here. This
Thanks for
it
thinking about it.
Yeah, this is going to be your standard vanilla bar period, time-based or
Yes.
range-based or volume-based, whatever, trade
Yeah.
count-based. There's nothing really that special about this chart. This
Right.
chart, in order to get the behavior that you're talking about, this can't be a typical, like I said, vanilla type chart because the bar period is going to be completely like manually handled. In fact, I'm not even sure if this qualifies to be used as a bar period type chart. Sierra does expose, and let me open it up. Uh,
I was thinking along the lines of a custom candle ACSIL,
yeah,
you know,
so
that
Axel,
basically
there's
have.
Yeah, I'm not even sure which, maybe it's under functions. It might not be though. But there's a way to create a custom chart.
Yes, they have an example in there.
This guy right here. I think this is intraday bar period. Yeah, intraday bar period type. Um, if you set it to this is when the chart contains a study, an ACSIL study that creates custom chart bars. So the study name is contained within ACSIL ACSIL custom chart study name for complete documentation for building a custom chart. See custom chart bars. I've never done this, so this is completely brand new to me. I just clicked on this link. Let's take a look at what this looks like.
Right.
ACSIL interface custom chart bars, related documentation on this page, introduction. So it's supported here. We can make a custom intraday chart bar period. You will need to set the name in here, and then it's automatically hidden. You will not be able to disable this custom study. Okay, so what does it use? You need to set this uses custom chart bar functionality. So this probably tells Sierra to not be updating the chart like it normally would with a
Right.
with a vanilla. And
Period.
then this guy is a chart building function, it looks like. So this looks like some kind of hook that you're passing in to a Sierra, uh, basically a hook that you are providing a function that you've written that Sierra will call if this is populated or pointed to rather by this thing that you're building. So what does this actually do? This is a read-write integer variable, and it sets the custom study function from which we'll build custom chart bars. Um, uh, Carvana on lows, NVIDIA on lows, everything continuing to lows. So complete code example. Let's open this up. Here is a custom. Okay, so this returns 1 for an up bar, -1 for a down bar. So it looks like get range for bar direction. It takes a chart bar interface reference variable and a bar index, and then it does logic on it, and it looks like it's just returning 1 or -1. Yeah, it's just returning 1 or -1. So it looks like you can do this type of thing. If we do that, what does this one do? This one is a chart bar building function. What was this one? Get range direction. I wonder if this is actually the one, and it calls that one. This is the actual function right here, not the other one. So let's look at this one. Um, Start new flag, range input, getting inputs has been cut at start of session. Interesting. Get range bar direction. So this is just a helper function that it's calling from, that's defined up here. This is the direction, and then chart bar interface, start new bar flag set to true. So you're basically telling Sierra to start a new bar. And then where do you tell it to stop? Insert new record, right there. Insert new record, true. If the direction is up, insert record to new record to insert. So you set the OHLC on those bars, those custom bars that you're building. You're basically building it out from scratch, yeah. Um,
Right. So so generically, if it's going to reference a condition to start the new bar, that condition defined by the outputs of several other SGs and some other charts, then this thing looks like it has the logic already to just continue building the open, high, low, close until that condition sets that flag again.
Yeah, so going back to your idea, it looks like this is possible, but you'll need a couple of different things. So the first thing you'll need is you'll need your study, your SC study, and that's going to be running on chart 2. And then inside here, you'll need to tell Sierra Chart that it's a custom bar chart, right? And then
Yep.
you'll need to ref chart one's values that you'll need for building out the custom bars on this chart. And then of course you'll need to also set this to the chart type of custom bar chart. So this piece where you are referencing the chart one subgraph values is pretty straightforward, and I think I even have a video on how to do this. So I don't think that you actually want this to be sending a message of some sort to chart 2 to draw a new candle. I think what you want is chart 2 to constantly be pinging chart 1 to see if that message or if that condition was met.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, rather
Yeah.
than trying to send something from chart 1 to chart 2, I think you're better off
Right.
writing this custom study that's added to chart 2 and saying, "Hey,
Right.
chart 1, is this truthy? Hey, chart 1,
Yep.
is this
Yeah.
truthy? Is
Right.
this truthy?"
Right.
And when it is truthy, metas on lows. When it is truthy, then go ahead and perform the logic that you have in here. So this is a code example for a custom bar chart, but let's keep reading on this main page, custom bar charts. So other than this hook function, so you have that hook function, let's add that. So you tell Sierra chart to build a custom thing, and then you reference the chart one, and then when truthy, you call or you provide your hook function, and then you call the hook function, or Sierra chart does. I'm not sure which one. Probably Sierra chart does, since you're providing it to Sierra. Let's keep reading. What else? So what is this section? Custom chart bar interface members for a custom bar function. All of the following are input to this custom chart bar interface. So you can set whether it's on daily or intraday data. You can determine is determining if should start new bar. AMD just getting rocked today. Wow. Wow. Where's the ES? Here's the ES. And the ES is finally showing some selling off now. I'm very surprised how today's turning out, but what does this mean? Is determining if should start new bar. Set this to 1 if the bar building function needs to indicate if it should start a new bar, otherwise it's always 0. Mm. And final processing after new or current bar set to 1 if the custom bar building function is being called after the data has been added to a chart bar, whether it's a new bar or not. So this probably you want to be 0 because if you're adding a new bar, it's because something already happened some condition already happened. So you probably don't need that to be set to 1. Is insert file records processing. When the custom bar building function is called and this flag is set to true, when there's a new intraday file record read and it has not yet been processed. I didn't understand that. Let me read it one more time. When the custom bar building function is called and this flag is true when there is a new intraday file record read and it has not yet been processed. Is it just me or is this not grammatical English right now?
Insert files, records,
When the
processing. Is this sort
custom
of
bar building.
between the base data and the printing, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it's saying that there's new executions that hit the tape in between the bar building function. Like it is running the logic and the bar building function, but new records have been updated, like because trades keep happening. That new intraday file record is not provided, but this is an opportunity to perform a split operation on the most recent chart bar, break it up into smaller records by reducing its size and putting the excess into a new record to insert. So basically, I don't think this applies to you because you are by the time you are attempt by the time you want to do by the time you have this and the conditions are truthy,
Right.
you don't care what's coming after that. ARM
Right.
is not at 69. It's at 62. That's not true. So yeah, by the time you don't care By the time you know that this is truthy, you don't care what new data is coming in because you're going to be evaluating that on the next run. You just want to add that new candle and then start reevaluating when your condition becomes truthy again. Like you don't care if you have met this condition and you're adding this about the new data coming in because you still need to reevaluate. You need to evaluate that for the next uh, condition to set up and be met because you're still implementing the adding of the bar from this condition being met. Right?
Right.
So, like, if I draw a timeline, if you will, and this is, let me make it an arrow since generally time goes forward. If 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 condition one or condition was met here, the next action is your SC study is going to say, was the condition met? And it's going to be asking here, right? So this is the condition getting met. It does nothing. And then you're polling from the study over here, was the condition met? And it's yes, it was. And so then the next step is add bar to chart, right? But
Right.
then right here, they're saying is, here's new data based on how frequently are you expecting bars to be added? Like, what's the nature of the condition you're looking to meet?
Well, a whole series of them, but on at least one of them, they could happen nearly instantaneously. Like you could get all of a sudden 7 to 10 bars printing out due to, let's say, a divergent, I should say an imbalance level of ask versus bid reaching a certain target amount, and then it could do that boom, 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 and then it could take an hour before that happened again. And so you might print as fast as you could blink 10 small, tiny candles, but that would create an indicator on the chart visually that, hey, this condition happened. But if you actually measure the time, it would be less than a second for all 10 of those candles. But that would be the most extreme case. The other cases would be, for example, this is silly, but the simplest one I could think of is, let's say that price goes up, crosses above and below some line such as an EMA. That would be the simplest case, and every time it did that, it sent, or in this case it's not sending the signal, the other chart's reading the signal that's, hey, that's true, the crossover event occurred, start a new candle on this time frame.
Let me ask you a devil's advocate question. Why not just write the study on chart one and put your drawing indicator, whatever you want to flag, happening on this thing that's actually doing the evaluation? Why add all this complexity on a second chart? Like, why do you need it to draw new candles when you could just take action here on this chart?
I'm trying to create a different visual experience where the splitting of the candles is in essence the indicator. And then on top of that, on the let's say receiving chart, or I guess the chart that's pulling that signal, chart 2 in this case, then it could have other filters and things like that set for, greater than or equal to 5, say, and that will create a very different output. So yes, I could do it that way, but this was an approach that I thought I could play with, something that I could create a different, unique visual experience in candles. And if it's simply reading conditions in some other chart, I could create obviously infinite varieties of that without having to mess around in the code.
What are you trying to use the new candle bars that are being drawn here for? Because there's a potential way to accomplish this without using the new custom chart bar stuff. But if you need to somehow reference these programmatically, that might not be an option for you. Like, what are you going to use?
It's worth
Is this just visual for you? Like, you just want to eyeball it, or are you trying to write code to read these candles also off a chart too?
Yes, yeah, I'd say 80 70% of the value is the visual breaking apart of those candles at conditions. And then on the higher time frame, if that breaking apart, let's call it splintering of those candles is occurring based on that lower time frame condition being true, and that happens at a higher time frame level of interest, then that is the confluence of events that gets me in on a particular trade.
Okay.
And then
I have another idea.
and let's go for it.
I'm gonna draw out an idea. This is
Thanks for taking the time to think this out.
it's an interesting problem, and um, there's always solutions to problems like this. It's just which one is best fitting for your use case. Um,
Right.
but
And gives like some flexibility.
yeah, yeah. One thing that comes to my mind, and I use this pretty frequently, and it might be easier than doing what drawing the new chart bars, is since this is that low time frame, let's call it one tick or 1 second, whatever.
Right.
It's analyzing a lot of data. What if in here you ran a study, and this study said if the condition is truthy, then um, save it, save the event to a custom structure. And so then in memory, on chart one, you have this custom structure. Um, Actually, I'm going to build it a little bit differently. You have this custom structure that is called, let's call it my cool event struct, right? This is your
Right.
custom structure.
This
And in
this
it, it
is
has,
reminding me of your magic chart, maybe.
yeah. And it has various information inside here. This custom structure, for example, there might be an integer value of your favorite number. Maybe you have a decimal of your favorite price, and then maybe you have a string of your favorite quote. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up for the point of you can analyze whatever you want and store it in this custom structure. And then you also have a list of these, whether it's an array, a list, a vector. In C++, there's multiple different containers. But this is an array list of vector of this my cool event struct, right? And so what happens is when chart one sees one of these, it creates a custom struct, and it says, oh, this event just happened and it just became true. Ship it and store it into this list. Maybe you even have a date time, SC date time, in here as well for the time of the event happening, right? And so all of a sudden, you'll have a list of these events populating through here with all the metadata about the individual occurrence of that event in here. And then you save this to persistent memory on chart one and it's just firing real quick because it's happening here. So if you have like 10 of those events happen within a 1 second period, you have 10 popping out right here. But then chart two says, hey, give me the persistent um, pointer to the custom structure from chart one. Essentially, give me this guy and feed it back into here. And then on chart two, you can have a second custom study that reads through your little custom structure here. It rips through this, iterates through, and it says, oh, um, I need to draw out these events on this other chart. So maybe um, I guess it depends on how you want to do this chart in terms of bar period. I
Right.
think I
And
think you're
again,
gonna
it
have
wouldn't
a
be a
lot of
consistent
struggles.
bar period.
Yeah, if you want it to be a custom bar period that's not time based, I guess it depends on the importance of that one part for you. Because if it's
That I- that I think is the real underlying purpose is to explore that. And I may, after playing with it for some months and trying different things, decide, well, it wasn't as great as I thought, but I definitely, that's my goal, is to get to where I can play with things that will splinter the candles due to various conditions. And what you're describing here, I think, is another way to go. And maybe is the advantage to this um, speed, or what is the advantage to this approach?
I think the advantage to this is less complexity because you don't have a custom chart bar or bar period. So, and you're analyzing here, storing to memory, and then reading from here. So there might be some kind of minimal performance gain, but I think the real thing here is just the lack of complexity on having this. But
Right.
then you would have this not be a custom bar chart. This would actually be a bar period, whether it's time based or maybe it's none at all. Maybe you have this as a blank canvas. Like, what if maybe you only want to see the most recent, like 3 or 4 or 10 events? So you could have this just be a blank canvas and use drawing tools and just draw the last 10 events here. You don't care about the timeline, right? Like, it sounds
Right.
like time is
Yeah.
not really a thing. So the
Right.
splitting of the candles isn't really time based in any sense. So
Yeah.
what if
It's
you
a
just had
it's
a,
a conditioned candle as opposed to a time candle.
yeah, so why not just have a blank canvas and then just draw on it using the drawing tools based on the data that's coming through on this on here. So like let's say you have 50, size is 50. Let's say there's 50 records that you have here, and this one down here is the most recent one, right? So you have dot dot dot, and then this 50th one, which is actually element 49, right? Because it's 0
Right.
to
Right. Right.
49.
Yep.
So what you could do is you could grab size minus 1 element, and that's your most recent one, and you could draw that here, and then just rip backwards through the last 5 or 10 or whatever, and just draw them out here as they happen. So then when you get a new one, you just basically clear the canvas and rip through this and redraw whatever you want from here.
Could could I play it out as an example then? Let's just say that one of the ways that I was hoping to create a new candle, so to speak, or draw it in this case, would be when the condition occurred that you might identify absorption occurring. At an exorbitant amount of absorption occurring at some level, and it identifies that in different ways. Let's just say it gives a true comment, and it sends that signal out. So now that condition occurred, so you get all those candles. Now that condition is not occurring, but I would
Hmm.
still want it to draw a candle based on all the tick information, but all that tick data would now be coming in a single drawn candle, and kind of like a volume profile in a way of just up down inside of that tick indefinitely until it's told to draw the next candle. Would
Hmm.
that still work in this case?
Yes, that would still work, but it would be dependent because you're starting to flirt with some time-based related conditions. So as you were explaining that, you were you were bringing in time because what is um,
Right,
what is iceberg or what is
right.
what was the word you used again?
Absorption or
Absorption.
so,
What is
whatever. They're
absorption?
all.
What is absorption? Define it because
Yes, I see
you'll
where
be
you're going.
tough. You'll
You're
be
right.
tough pressed to define absorption without using time.
Yes, you're right.
What
Yep.
is
So
the yeah?
it would be a certain amount of so the signal on the originating lower time frame chart would still need to be true if a rate of occurrences. And so you're right, there is still that time element in there. But then let's assume that rate is much faster than the rate than the non-rate chart, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Hmm.
And so it sends this given signal into the array of
Yeah. You know what I would call this? Most recent events
yes, yes,
chart. It's a most recent event chart. Is what this, but you could use it as a blank canvas, and it just shows you the most recent events, so you don't think about it in terms of time. And so if these were
right.
absorption candles, what you could do is say, well, this was a little bit of absorption, this was a lot of absorption, and this was a medium amount of absorption, and this would be the most recent absorption event. This would be the previous absorption event, but
Or
and these would
actually, in the case of a lot of absorption, what it would do is create a lot of candles there. So they'd
Sure.
almost, it'd be visually the other way around. Brrr. And
So
then when there's
then,
no absorption, you'd get a big old candle.
oh, wait, let me think about that. So what is the candle representing then?
So the candle is told to create a new candle whenever said condition is true.
But what does
So
the high of the
visually,
candle represent? If you want to draw a candle based on absorption, what does the high, open, low, close mean? Excuse me.
well, let's say in this case there was it was an up candle, and so you had a fair amount of bid, but it couldn't go anywhere in a given rate of time. And so let's say these are, of course, just hypotheses, and then I would try dozens of examples of this. But let's just say one of them might be a ton of bid, nothing on the offer, and yet the candle's not moving. And in a given microsecond, maybe there's a couple hundred of those hit, boom, new candle. A couple hundred of those hit, boom, new candle. But that might have been,
So
less
pause,
than,
pause right there. So you said new candle. So a candle has four spots, four pieces of data. What is
right?
the four pieces of data that you're
They
providing?
may be, well, they would be the price at the time of that occurrence on that lower time frame chart.
But
And so if
which
it
one
was a
of these would
tick,
be?
they would all be the same for price, so you'd get a flat line. If it was, let's say, a two range on the lower time frame chart, then you would get the data from the two range.
What symbol? What instrument are you looking at?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
NASDAQ, those kind.
So would the low or would the open be the price? But then what's the low, close, and high equal like of the candle that you're drawing equivalent to? Because this isn't a price candle anymore. This is a custom data candle. I almost think like I almost think you should work backwards rather than
Right,
forwards.
right.
Because what you're trying to accomplish sounds very similar to what I am building out with my tape reader uh, iceberg detector where I am
I'm not familiar.
detecting absorption and icebergs, but rather than, and I'm doing something very similar to this, except
Oh,
instead of 1 second, I'm just reading the tape raw, and I am storing those events in a list. And then instead of drawing them on a second chart, I'm just drawing them as circles
visuals. Yeah.
on the chart that is running the study.
Right. And so in essence, this is the same thing, but instead of a circle, you get a splinter chart, so to speak. But where I was heading was not creating a research laboratory of sorts. So now if I've coded this, now the SGs on the originating chart, I could create all various sorts of conditions to fine tune or identify patterns that I maybe wouldn't have known, or I could try just bizarre things just to see what it would look as well. And so it's sort of like a Swiss Army knife of this, but with the idea ultimately when you get a line of tiny candles in fast formation on the final chart, that is the visual indication as opposed to a circle.
Okay, so let's say
And
you do get let's talk about your line of tiny candles. Candles have these four. You said this one is going to be the price of the ES. So then what are
that,
this one, and this one being set to?
well, in the case of these nanosecond types, they would have to come in as the same price, I think, and just basically be a line in that case on the final chart. But in the case of other conditions that maybe, you know, I see where you're going, because how is the candle going to, how
Correct,
is
because
the,
this is
yeah,
not a price candle. You need to provide four data points, and you're overloading. Um,
right. So the condition would actually need to be waiting for four conditions in a sense to occur. Um,
Or you
in
need to
one,
find a different way to represent and render your visual target thing that you're trying to achieve, but not with
right, like
a
a line
candle.
chart
Yeah, with
with a line.
something
Yeah,
else. Yes, something else other than a candle.
right. Well, okay, going back to the original idea of new candle bar chart, the original one,
Yep, back
what
here.
I think the value of that would be then theoretically is if it just sends a signal to start a new bar, then I avoid that trap, because now it's just All the
So
rest of
here's
the
the
tick data
problem.
is coming in.
Here's the problem with that. You still have to provide OHLC. So even when you send that signal, you still have to provide OHLC for
Oh,
um,
I thought that if the flag went to, let's say, 1 for start building new,
that will
um,
tell the Sierra that you want to build a new one, but you still need to provide the bar that you're inserting, new record to insert. You still need to provide, you see low, open, close, and where is high? High is somewhere right there. So or right
and
there.
that I don't know what to do about that right
Right.
now.
This is kind of trying to fit a round peg into a square hole situation because I don't think that these bars are actually what you're trying to like. Part of it is because you want to see that add to the chart visually, but a good example, use overlay study, Morpheus says. How would you use an overlay study for this though? Because it's not a bar period. Um, it's not like a
Right.
time-based bar period.
The way I hoped this would kind of occur is, okay, let's say that on a simpler version, let's say on the final chart 2, it's it's happily making candles. But how does it know, based on its own feed of data, how does it know when to start the new candle? It gets its own flag from Sierra chart to start the new candle based on a few conditions of its own. It's the session start, it's the day start, and or it reached some periodic signal. At that moment when that ultimate chart gets that signal, it's not getting high, low, open, close data. It's just getting a flag set to true that says start new candle. So what I wanted to do is override that feature, if possible, not giving it high, low, open, close candle to print, but just say, hey, start a new candle, but use your own data array to continue building the candle until I tell you to start the next candle. And so instead of dealing with a high, low, open, close situation, it was more like signal on the chart, just plot a candle forever until I tell you to start the next candle. And then I might tell you in a quick succession of events in microseconds to start a bunch of candles, but then you just continue happily plotting along from this SD data array, however it works, to continue creating the next candle until that condition flags start new candle. That's the direction I was originally envisioning.
Okay. Does the candle size for you mean anything on that second chart?
Well, just like a circle, as you described it on your absorption, you could set a circle to mean anything you wanted. So technically, the candle size in this case will mean things based on what the condition is. So in the case of absorption, which I think is a challenging case, you have a candle size tiny will show that's a lot of absorption right at that price level, but then price maybe moved 100 points away, that demonstrates that there was no fight all the way down to the other price level, say. Now, it may have bounced up and down in there, but there was no event that was significant enough to break the candle up,
Hmm, interesting.
or in that case, cause a circle. And so visually on the chart, what you're saying is every time a candle split, so at its close, that was a significant event. The closes become much more significant. And then that is something to research. What does that mean for standard oscillators? What does it mean? There's a whole like body of research that I could run around that if I could redefine what candles do.
Sure,
I
sure.
say candles, but to your point, they can be any visual observation.
All right. A new bar, essentially. Okay.
A new bar signal,
Um, okay.
head scratcher, I guess.
I think it sounds like you have a lot of use cases for this custom chart bar thing. So yeah, I would go that route first. Maybe you can get away with not having to provide OHLC and you could just provide O and C.
Yeah,
Luda mentioned this is a good example is the delta bars, the high-low is the only inputs. I think what Luda's trying to
good
suggest
point.
is that, these are non-OHLC bars that use fewer data points to render on the chart. Luda, correct me if I'm wrong in what you're suggesting, but I think that's what you meant by that. Basically, you only need two inputs instead of four per bar, and so that might be a better. It'll look more like a histogram rather than a candle bar, which might be better. Um, I bet you can probably do histogram style uh, custom bars as well. So I wonder if the best route is to do this
Yeah. That was
custom.
worth thinking about, though. That was,
Oh, is this the same page? Yeah, it's the same page, just further down. Okay. So I would check out this page for using this example. I don't think you need all of these helper functions. I think the real meat of it is this lower function here, and I don't think you need everything that's in here. They're doing a lot of stuff in here.
yeah.
Or actually, um, you could do this as well. This one here is a separate example, it looks like. Um, and let's just walk through this and then we'll move on
Right.
to the next question. But here they set this, uses, so this is one thing you will need to set in your SC defaults. This is a requirement
Right.
for if you decide to use this. So assuming going with option one, custom bar chart building, you will need to set that in your defaults. You will need to set a hook function. So this is going to be called humble hook function, right? And you'll have that defined lower down. Um, it'll be probably, I think it has to return an integer, if I'm not mistaken. Where's the hook function? Custom bar range building function returns, or no, it doesn't. It returns an SCSF export.
What is
Interesting.
that?
That's some kind of data structure. Sierra chart SF export. I don't know what SF is. Sierra chart. Uh, I don't know what the S stands for, or in the F. I'll probably find it after the stream's over, but whatever. Um, so
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 special.
oh yeah, maybe it's something like that. So this is just a stub out of like, yeah, this is just a stubbing out of how to build that. And it does look like it does need this as a return type, and it looks like it needs this to be passed in through the header. So when you set that hook function, it needs to look kind of like this. Um, it needs to be returning an SCSF export variable, apparently, and it needs to accept a custom bar interface ref. So we can call this like humble hook function. Let's take a look again. Where are their return statements here? That's not returning anything. This is not returning anything. This is not returning anything. So it looks like
Looks like a standard almost loop type of a situation where
I bet
it's
this is
just
a definition, like a C style uh, if
right.
def. This probably expands into some other. This is probably a macro that expands into some other kind of like return type that we just don't see here. That might be somewhere else in
Yes.
the code, but this.
That I think is what we were talking about. That will literally say, go ahead and start the new candle now.
Oh, so it probably comes down to an integer somehow. Like,
Yeah.
but anyways, so you create your function and you set it here. This will be elsewhere in the code, and then inside that, I mean, there's nothing else in here that you really need to do. Let me take a look. So you've set it here. Um, Look at this. Always use manual looping, so don't use auto loop for building
Yep.
custom bar charts, okay? And
Makes sense.
then um,
Here's
this
the
is some kind
persistent
of custom
int.
chart bar reload flag key. why do you need this? Because you need to use this in order to reload the chart if you have new data,
Oh,
I guess. So
got
you have to control loading. So yeah, there's a lot of complexity involved in doing your own chart bars. But let's see, this is just grabbing an integer, flag to reload chart data is full calculation, full recalc. And then in here, chart bar interface, start new bar flag is always 0. And then here is this is probably where you're going to be pulling from chart 1 is in this area of logic to see if that
got it.
condition is true. And if it is true, then you're probably setting this to 1 when that condition gets true. And then when you're done, then you probably do what? Hold on. When is new chart bar? So you're here. This chart bar interface get chart bar value. You do that. What does that give you? That just gives you values. So I wonder if chart bar interface get chart bar value does some kind of storage. Because I don't see them setting any.
Wonder if this is specific to the example being some sort of a high-low range or something because that looked like they were defining the
Yeah,
last
where are the values being set here? That's what I don't see. Unless it's like this.
term per index.
Yeah, get chart bar value.
Okay, there's volume. Okay, maybe they're feeding the volume for the given custom candle in somehow or keeping track of that. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm not sure what this function does. Let's take a look. For accessing the bar values at each bar index. So no, this return value is a reference and is read write. Ah,
it's actually important then for now.
yeah.
Takes a subgraph index and a bar index.
This is worth. I would get to this ACSIL custom chart bars and become very intimate with this page, which I
Yeah,
am not. I would need to sit down and read through this pretty carefully. But I would read through this a couple of times,
yeah.
and then this is where I would start, is just understanding how this functions and what this can do. Um, Maybe next week we can return to this if you have
It
gotten
would
through
be a
this.
It would be a pleasure, and thank you for spending the time to think about it. I'm glad too that we brainstormed alternative and then kind of return to this because that would, help me to be a little more resolved in this direction. I wanted to make sure I wasn't barking up the wrong tree. You mentioned at the beginning of this that you had already coded in another video the piece of sort of pinging constantly the SG from the another chart. Is there a hint on how I might find that?
I think it's called um, getting values from another study.
Okay.
It's in one of, maybe someone can find it and post it, but it's in the playlist of coding streams, and it's a video. It might even be a tutorial video actually. It's called like get or reference other studies from other charts or something like that.
Okay. I'll be able to find it with that. Thank you. And thank you so much, Frozen.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, next question. No questions? Let's double check. don't see any questions here. Okay, if you have questions, post them quick in coding text channel.
If no one has any questions, I don't want to hog all your time, but I have a second unrelated, but I'll wait a while because I already took enough of your
No, go
time.
for it. What is it?
Okay, this is a completely unrelated idea. It is imagine having a chart where the studies could show or hide the given study based on the zoom level. And so as you zoom down lower time, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, certain studies, maybe an EMA, maybe a lower time frame profile would become visible. As you zoom out, different EMAs and different profiles would become visible. And so what you would need is some way to toggle that show hide
Mm-hmm.
study functionality based on the zoom level, either using maybe that pixel count in the bottom right hand corner of the chart, or maybe kind of similar to what you did in the magic chart by catching the number of visible bars on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
something to that
Mm-hmm.
effect.
Yeah, so I made a video about this. I built something very similar to this. It's called,
Oh,
I think I called it Zoom, like a Zoom key. But the main point of the video was how to zoom in on a chart, but also what I ended up adding to that, and I don't actually remember if this is in the video or not, is the disabling of other studies while you're zoomed in. So, or the hiding of them, like visually hiding them while you're
oh,
zoomed in, and then re-enabling them when you
that's awesome.
zoom back out. But we can just pop over to it. I think it's in this functions area. Let's search for hiding. Set study visibility state.
Beautiful.
So you could, it sets the visibility state of a study by making it visible or hiding it. So pretty straightforward. You need that study ID and, you know, 1 is visible, 0 is hidden. So what you could do is as your chart bar period parameters are changing, you could detect, so if this is chart and you have, there's a number in the bottom right corner down here, which
Yep.
let's just say it's 30. I'll make it a different color. And I think this is the number of millimeters between bars that are drawn on the chart. So if you
Uh-huh.
zoom in, this will become larger, and as you zoom out,
Right.
it will go down, and I think it will go down to like 1 or 0. And then you have the most bars you can fit on the chart.
Yep.
There's a point where you can't zoom in anymore because you have too much data.
Yeah.
But if you're not super zoomed in, this can be pretty wide. Like let's, for example, look at, where's my ES chart? So this is at 11 right now. You see that? 11. And actually I have a study called an auto zoom. You see it's trying to, you see that? I built a study to have it lock in on just the current session. So if I zoom in, I have it
Nice.
programmatic. You see it like tweaking around there, doing a
Yeah.
little dance.
Especially for your chart there that you keep tight in that
Yes.
corner. So,
Yes.
yep.
And Sierra doesn't have a built-in way to just set the study or set the chart to stay on one day the way that I wanted it to. It was something that Lightspeed has, but Sierra doesn't. So I wrote this study to basically examine this number here and find out what the what the indices are.
Apparently it does go to 0, and that would be the most zoomed out.
It does go to, let me
Yeah.
try
I
going.
just tested it.
Oh, so you can see it's going 99. It was at 100. Now it's going down. And what it's doing is it's hunting. It's hunting for the correct this number, which is the only thing you have control over. So it's going, and you saw it go back and forth a little bit
Right.
because it's trying to
Right.
find which one is the best visual
That was
based on how
clever.
I
I like
coded it.
it.
Yeah, it's a cool little study that is really just for my own trading purposes, but it
Yeah.
lets me do
That's
that.
cool.
But yes, this is the guy that you want to tweak. It's the
That's nice because it's more direct than I thought would be needed, which I figured you'd need to, check array sizes for how many candles are in the chart and calculate how many you want and yada yada.
I might be. Luda posted a thing, a piece of code there. You know, the visible bars is the index of the last visible. The number of bars you have rendered on the chart is the index of the most recent bar, or the last visible bar, minus the
Right.
index of the first visible bar. And that's the number of bars you have on the chart, but then you need to also control that. So
Yeah. This
there,
is that more direct. I like this.
what was the name of that? Actually, let me just open up Vim one sec. Um, uh, Sierra chart, ACS source. I forgot what it's called. Is it called Zoom toggle? No, it's like what the hell is this called? Lock num days displayed. That's what I called it. Lock number of days displayed. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So that's what this is right here. This is running
Right.
lock num days displayed. And I have it set to just one. And let's just find where that is. Okay, so chart bar spacing, this number here, this 10 right here, you can fetch by using sc.chartBarSpacing. So that's the first thing.
Got
You
it.
can get that right there. And then I'm also keeping track of the previous spacing and also the previous spacing, because what ended up happening is that I needed to, it was thrashing. When I was building this out, it was thrashing. So it'd go like 9,
Ah,
10, 9, 10, 9, 10, 9, 10. And so I had to add
right.
logic to detect if I'm thrashing back and forth and the previous setting is equivalent to the current setting, that means I'm thrashing back and forth and I need to just stop, which is
Right.
what you saw as it was, it was going down, down, down.
Yep. It's fighting its way
It's
there. Yep.
hunting, hunting, and then you saw that little dance it did right there at the end
Yep.
between 10 and 11 right there. That's
Yep.
it being like, hey, I can't go down anymore because if I
Yep.
zoom out
The
anymore, I'm beyond where my beginning of the day is. So yeah, it's just hunting, and you can see it like looking for the time. I find the date, and then I set the time to just custom hard coded it to 9:30, which is what I wanted. You may want differently, and then I just like decrement the chart bar spacing directly. It's a read write integer, and so you can just increment decrement this, and it will tweak your chart the way you need to. So for what you're trying to describe, um, or achieve rather, is I completely forgot what you were trying to
It,
achieve.
it
Can you
would be like
repeat it?
layers. It would be like studies become visible at certain zoom levels and then
Oh,
toggle off at other zoom
right,
levels. But
right.
that all makes sense now from what you've already laid out.
So then it's if sc.chart bar spacing or whatever that is, at certain zoom level is less than 30, then, you know, what was that other? It was like set study visibility state or whatever that thing was
Yeah.
is false or zero.
That study
And
was, yeah, that's what it was.
if it's over
Yep.
60 or over
Yep.
100, set it to
Et
true.
cetera, et cetera. And as many of those layers as you want to put in
Yeah,
there, feel happy. And then
exactly.
technically, I could feed that out to an SG reference or an SG, and then have a series of toggle switches that are based on those zoom numbers, like show this from 5 to 50, show this from 50 to 100, so
Sure.
on and so on.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Last call, and then I'm gonna go get some more coffee and head off to work. What else? Last call. Quick question. Anybody?
Thank you, Frozen.
Yeah, you're welcome in. Okay, let's end it there. Have a wonderful weekend, guys. Uh, drive fast and take chances. I'll see you
It,
next week.
this will be posted, I think.
Yes, it's streaming, and I'll post it.
Thank you, sir.